You guys may know that probably the most controversial topic or the biggest discussion of all time in Apex Legends history has been skill-based matchmaking. In the last couple of videos, we've been discussing some things that are coming soon, and I think a lot of people are excited for the future content of Apex, but no one can get past the idea that the skill-based matchmaking situation in Apex Legends currently is just simply not good. Here in this last couple of seasons, you've seen many videos pop off that do really well about people complaining about the current state of the matchmaking in the game. And it's not just public matches that we're having. We're also having issues in the rank system. People are now even complaining about the gun run LTM that we're having in Apex Legends right now. People just simply are not happy with the sweatiness of the game. So why does gaming feel this way? And why does Apex specifically feel this way, especially here as of recent? We've seen people like Otter, also people like Gaming Merchant, have some crazy pop-off videos where they're talking about the skill-based matchmaking because everyone seems to really agree, and it's honestly a hot topic right now. So this video I made 2 years ago was actually talking about what was called EOMM, where basically people were saying, like, I figured out how Apex does their skill-based matchmaking, and all other games honestly follow suit as well, especially just anything that EA owns apparently was running off of this EOMM style of matchmaking. And apparently what it would do is trying to get you to have a certain type of win rate because they don't want you to win too much because the game feels too easy and you don't come back, similar to like COD Mobile, maybe even PUBG Mobile. But they also don't want it to be too hard because they feel like you'll never win and then you'll never be satisfied with getting those dubs. So if you continuously do really bad, you'll get a nice bot lobby and be able to drop like 5,000 damage, a lot of kills, and get a really nice win. That's how a lot of people drop these high kill games, and it's not necessarily that they're glitching into bot lobbies, but the way the matchmaking has been explained and the way it actually works is essentially if you do bad over a course of time, it'll put you in an easier lobby. I want to go ahead and separate the whole rank system right now because we know that's a little bit of an outlier. Plat players should never be playing Apex Predators, and that's not necessarily matchmaking like automated. We all know that that needs to change and probably will be changed shortly. But what I really want to talk about are your casual modes, your limited time modes, your public matches where things just feel too sweaty. Well, after a very long time of not getting really any responses about skill-based matchmaking, and I also think I know why they haven't spoke about it, we finally did get some type of a response from a developer over on Respawn. And I do want to apologize because it is quite a lengthy response. He gives a lot of detail, but I do think this is pretty good transparency between the community. Also want to mention, don't forget, I didn't really do an introduction on this. We are giving away a Loba heirloom. If you guys are interested, just like the video, make sure you're subscribed and leave a comment down below. All the comments for the next 3 days are still entered, and I really appreciate the support, guys. So let's start this extremely long story because there are so many tweets that are involved in this, but I am glad that he made a lot of tweets because it does give a lot of transparency. So I made a video over a year ago where I said Respawn told me about this whenever it comes to SBMM in Apex Legends. In a conversation with an Apex community member complaining about skill-based matchmaking because, why wouldn't they be, where they said annoyingly most social modes seem to count KD. Players always going to be looking at their sweaty stats if that's the case, and if players are going to be looking at their stats and seeing that that number continually gets worse, it discourages any form of relaxed play. And he honestly makes a good point because if you think about it, people who have their KD counted in pubs and also lifetime kills and maybe trying to kill grind on a specific legend, you're going to have an increased number of 3-stack players who are trying to grind, play pubs like it's ranked, stay alive, and just sweat. But I can't imagine these stats only counting in ranked. I feel like that's not the answer either, but I don't really know what the answer is. But I do think he makes a good point. And he also got a response here from Tyler Owens, which is a build engineer for Apex Legends, which, by the way, shout out to Tyler because this guy is always responding to the community members, especially when it comes to skill-based matchmaking. He has all of these discussions over on his Twitter page where he's actually being transparent with the community about big issues that may be going on. And I really like that he does that because at least it gives some people some hope about things to look forward to, or maybe some answers that we could be getting. So big shout out to Tyler for doing that. He responded to this guy saying, "That's fair. My thoughts on social have always been that how sweaty or casual the experience is coming down to the player. If I care, I'll sweat and perform better, increasing my average and skill level of my games. If I want to relax, I'll relax and my games get easier." So I made a response to him, and what was my profile picture right here? Someone should make my current profile picture look stupid like this. If you DM me on Discord with it, I'll make it my profile picture now. And I made a response and I basically said, okay, this is weird because I used to play mouse and keyboard and it always felt so sweaty. A few weeks ago, I decided I'm gonna plug in the controller, sit back and blast some music, and I might suck on controller, but at least I'll have some fun. But oddly, I'm doing better and winning more. When you say your games get easier when you relax, it's true for me too, but how does that even work? He responded and said it depends on the specific details of the matchmaking system. Some take this into account and feed you matches of various quality levels to increase overall engagement, and others they may evaluate recent performance skill versus historical. He also said that overperforming in matches generally leads to the system inflating your skill on performance. So literally not trying as hard can directly lead to easier matches. So if you drop a 20 bomb, that's great, but but expect the next week of Apex Legends to be absolutely terrible. I'm really not trying to drag this video out, but I do feel like that was an important 5 minutes worth of context, because here in the last couple of days, the Modern Warfare 2 beta has been out and people have been talking about skill-based matchmaking. So this Respawn developer, Tyler Owens, has decided to jump in and give his thoughts on skill-based matchmaking. So once again, shout out to Tyler, because not only is he giving me content to talk about, but he's also like the only person at Respawn who's talking about this. So it really started when Courage made this viral tweet about the Modern Warfare 2 beta having way too much SBMM, where he said, Call of Duty multiplayer died for me when every player had to have a 1.0 KD and be coddled in SBMM lobbies. It's a shame I'm playing the sweatiest lobbies of all time with no rank to show for it. Sigh. But that's when Tyler Owens started to make his response here, and he says at some point all of these COD content creators need to get in a talk with some developers on their stream/podcast to talk about the SBMM, explain how difficult it is to mathematically represent skill expression, as well as all the other factors that contribute to the fairness of a match. He followed it up saying, explain what skill-based matchmaking is doing to improve their experience and how as gaming communities grow to do the complexities of how players express their skill. He also said, help convey how the definition of a fair match changes across games, modes, social competitive experiences, show how new content fits into this equation over the life cycle of live service games, being like your Call of Duty, your Warzone, your Apexes, your Fortnites, and all of those of the world. He also said, show the fairness of how any given match comes down to the factors more than complex than just variance in MMR, and how latency, individual player behavior, and other factors are considered in the matchmaking process. At some point, we need to get on the same page. I'm glad that a Respawn developer is actually agreeing that players, community members, and developers all need to get on the same page when it comes to skill-based matchmaking, because right now there is a big gap between players and devs, and they really just feel like the devs are so clueless, they don't know what they're talking about, they really need to get rid of SBMM, it's not helping the game, and the devs are so convinced that the player base is clueless, they don't know what they're talking about, there has to be SBMM. He says, I don't know, but something. I'm just tired of the same fruitless complaints and arguments about SBMM every week. Kudos to you, Tyler. We're right there with you, just kind of on the opposite side of this. So the biggest thought that we always have is like, hey, ranked has SBMM, pub shouldn't. Someone actually made that response, and he replied saying, in principle, you would think so, but you have to consider what are the downstream effects of optimizing for something like latency instead. Do you want every game you play to be against cracked Timmy down the street before you have the same ping to their servers? And this is just an example, but my point is that optimizing/matchmaking without skill involved doesn't necessarily create a better experience. It's the weight of skill and how quickly thresholds widen that really matter. But just removing it from the equation entirely would make things worse, not necessarily better or more random. You're just optimizing off a different set of variables and getting outcomes based on those. And a principal game designer for Riot Games had a response here as well, and they went back and forth basically talking things about skill-based matchmaking and agreeing with each other and talking about how every single game is different and it's so game specific. At the end of all of this though, Tyler Owens made a statement saying, I would love to sit down and just talk about matchmaking someday. Twitter is hardly the place, and despite any real education or in-depth experience on the subject, I feel like I could talk/listen to discussion about it forever. So considering Tyler follows me and I would consider Tyler a friend, I thought about, well, what if we got a developer on here to explain skill-based matchmaking and answer a lot of the questions that you guys as the community members have? Until he followed up another response that was actually talking about the skill-based matchmaking situation once again, and he said this, but honestly, game devs would be bringing a ton of attention to themselves and put a bit of a target on their back in doing so. I understand why this hasn't been done more comprehensively in the past. It's risky for the individual devs involved. And I searched for about 5 minutes, but I couldn't find the video where I made a couple months ago where a Respawn developer who used to work for the company, no longer does work for the company, responded to someone on Reddit who was complaining because, hey, you know, back in the day, Ryan Rigney used to respond to us all the time. We used to get updates about what you guys were doing, Reddit AMAs. Thankfully, they brought those back. But for a long time, we didn't have those. And people were like, what's going on? Why don't we have that conversation? Why don't we have that communication anymore? And like I said, I couldn't find the picture, but this guy responded saying that we found out it was actually more harmful for us to reply because then 80 million people who think that they're game developers respond to us and say why we're stupid and we don't know what we're talking about. Then people make YouTube videos and complain about our decision. And so that's why they actually stopped replying to people, is what they said. And so they found more often than not, it was better just to keep things hush hush and just let things come out naturally rather than having to just defend themselves every day, which sucks because the bad apples of the bunch always ruin it. And for a lot of people, they just would like to really sit down with Respawn, have a good conversation and communication about what's going on in the community. I would love to interview Respawn developers who really want to explain things to the community that actually believes in them. But unfortunately, as it stands now, it is actually risky for individual developers to stand out and actually explain things this way because they just get so much backlash. He did respond also saying, but hopefully that aspect of our industry changes for the better soon. Devs should be able to talk about their interest, experience, and expertise at a high level. I can speak about game development without the content of Apex, for example, without being viewed as a flight risk by studios. Someone did respond also saying good players always thrive with SBMM variants in pub games. What makes it annoying sometimes is the fact that you as a solo continuously fight duo/trio stacks in Discord, coordinating like it's a ranked match. If you remove pre-made from the solo experience, games might be much better. And as of lately, a lot of Twitch streamers and pro players have been advocating for that exact philosophy right there. Tyler did respond saying, yeah, matchmaking experience could be improved with various tweaks/changes based on the specific game mode. This is complicated to scale in a live service, requiring new content to come with matchmaking optimizations for it makes everything take longer/require more testing. But this is also my point. SBMM isn't the enemy/cause of these modern problems. So I'm glad Respawn has noticed the elephant in the room and actually made some really big discussions about skill-based matchmaking. I wish Tyler, like he said, was allowed to be able to make these in-depth discussions and not be looked as a flight risk by other studios. Unfortunately, all the Jimmys of the world that think they know everything ruin the experience for all of us, because then they're afraid to even say anything. But I would love a world for someone who has a platform to be able to reach out to a developer and maybe get some type of an interview and transparency. The fact of the matter is, I think a lot of people that think they know what they're talking about don't understand a lot of the things that go on behind closed doors. We all think it's as simple as 1, 2, 3. And on the flip side, I think the fans have a very valid argument that there's a lot of issues currently with the skill-based matchmaking that do need to be dealt with. Whether you think it's an issue or not, a vast majority of the player base do feel like the games are a little too sweaty and hard to enjoy nowadays. You can't just ignore a massive uproar and think that there's not a problem to look into. I mean, picture all of us as customers going to our favorite restaurant every day. For the first 10 years of going there, things have always been great. It's been very easy to chew up your food. The food tastes good. Everything's just always been happy-go-lucky. Somewhere along the line, it got way harder to eat, and all of a sudden our jaws started hurting. The meat was tough, and it just wasn't as smooth as it used to be. So the customers tell the owners, hey guys, this is getting a little too tough. It's not as easy to eat this stuff as it used to be. It's one thing if it's just 1 or 2 people out of millions, but when there becomes a massive uproar of your customers saying, look dude, the meat is too tough, you need to tenderize it, something's wrong, that owner would be absolutely delusional to just ignore all of those customers and just say, get over it, nothing's wrong. I'm not saying that's a perfect illustration. I also think the players obviously need to know that SBMM is not as easy as 1, 2, 3, but hopefully you guys get my point. Make sure to like the video if you guys did enjoy. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. As always, this one took me so long to record and edit. It's really hard to make daily videos like this, but I am having a good time posting out stuff that I'm proud of. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. Don't forget, we're giving away a Loba heirloom. All you gotta do is like, comment, subscribe, and we're picking that winner in about 3 days. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day. It's Barber Day, only positivity, and until the next time, later Gators.